This is just very disappointing. And no, I'm not talking about my haircut. I'm talking about HDR in Donkey Kong Bananza because
HDR is a scam.
no, HDR is not a scam. It's not a fake. Let's move on.
I watched a video and the guy told me it's a scam.
What about my videos where I show clearly how much better HDR can be?
I'm not watching your videos.
That's just not nice. Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. As always, before we start, please do me a very big favor. Please like, share and subscribe. And now let's talk about HDR in Donkey Kong Bananza. And yes, there is HDR support in Donkey Kong Bananza on the Switch too, but in a very poor way. So for an example, the maximum peak brightness capability in this game is always limited. There's no way that you can have proper HDR specular highlights. Even you increase the maximum peak brightness setting in the HDR system level calibration on the Switch 2 to the absolute maximum, which would be 10,000 nits. The maximum peak brightness is still limited. The only way how we can affect the picture, the brightness in Donkey Kong Bananza on the Switch 2 is through the HDR system level calibration when we changing the second page. The second page, as you can see here right now, is responsible for the general brightness, also called paper white settings in supported games. And what you can see here right now is the absolute minimum brightness setting, the absolute maximum brightness setting, and my recommended settings, 5 clicks counting from the very left. This should gives you around 250 nits paper white setting, and 250 nits should be a very good value for most of the people. But what I would recommend is that before you start the game, set up the HDR system level calibration on your Switch 2. How to do that? Very simple. I made already a video about that. Link is in the description. The only good thing what I found so far in regards to the HDR implementation in Donkey Kong Bananza is that we're using white color gamut. Not in all the cases, not in all the levels, but in most of them. So don't get me wrong, this is a good thing, but also keep in mind, most of the time, we're talking about SDR color range. Okay, my friends, so that's it for this video. And yes, I'm disappointed, but don't get me wrong, and I like to make this very clear. I'm just talking about the HDR implementation. I'm not talking about the visual quality in general. I'm not talking about gameplay, not talking about sound, because this is on a complete different level. We're talking about a very great game, actually, in my opinion. AAA game. I mean, that's how it is. But in regards to the HDR implementation, I was expecting much more. What is going on? Is this just a bug at the moment that we have limited specular highlights? Because it just looks absolutely flat, the picture. Don't get me wrong again. I like the graphic style, I like the visual quality, I like the gameplay, but in regards to HDR, and that is what this channel is about, absolute disappointing. Nintendo, this is not acceptable.